The FBI secretly deployed more than 250 plainclothes agents to the U.S. Capitol during the J6 riot. Previous news says the DOJ Office of Inspector General said that the FBI had no undercover personnel in the crowd. A clear lie. We have been used as pawns in a political war. The FBI fell into the trap and has allowed it to happen. We were supposed to call balls and strikes, regardless of political pressure. Now we can't even be trusted to be on the field. Oh, that's so true. FBI bombshell, they're telling us 274 agents were sent to the Capitol for January 6th, and they are very upset about how they were treated, calling themselves political pawns. Now, we're going to take a look at the actual document that is attached over here, and you can see, we'll parse through it. It's a big one, and there's a bunch of these little entries in here that make it difficult to see exactly what's going on, but we'll go through and assemble it. But this is what Just the News is telling us about what happened, and the president is calling this January 6th a radical left Democrat scam. And we here have been covering January 6th since the beginning, and we saw officers tap people on the shoulder to bring them into the Capitol. We had questions about why the bike racks were moved and why there was seemingly openings for people to just walk right up. We saw, looks like doors being opened and other people with masks breaking windows off that have not been identified or charged with crimes. Strange. Who were those people? Who was the pipe bomber? Who created the gallows? All sorts of open questions about this. And why did the Capitol Hill Chief of Police, Stephen Sund, say that he made many phone calls to Nancy Pelosi? Nancy Pelosi basically admitting she was in total control and had responsibility for security on that day. Why did Stephen Sund ask for the National Guard to come and they went to their own homes instead? They went to go protect their wives and kids and just ignored the Capitol, meaning there was a stand down order. What happened with the pipe bomber? Why did Kamala Harris go over there? Tons of questions, and we would just like some answers on it. And now we're starting to get some of them. You can see Just the News says 274 agents sent over to the Capitol, and the Blaze is also reporting on this. So we've got two sources now. The Blaze saying, yep, 274 plainclothes agents embedded in the January 6th crowds, coming from Steve Baker and Joseph Hanneman, two reputable reporters who've been on this topic for quite some time. Just the News explains, the FBI secretly deployed more than 250 plainclothes agents to the U.S. Capitol during the J6 riot. So, people are going to be quibbling over a couple things. One, the number. Was it 250? Was it 274? We heard the FBI made a stipulation in trials to something like 13, or maybe it was 8. I think it was actually 8. We had Homeland Security investigators who were also on scene. So are we counting them? Are we counting local FBI agents, local field offices? Are we taking agents from all over the country? We know that they were coming in from all over the country. So what is the number? Don't really know. Secondarily, what is the time? When did they come? Were they there before? Did they arrive during? Were these people who came in after? So we're looking for those things, and it's, going to be points of contention, points of debate. But here's what this evidence is showing us. They say it also was so disorganized, they unleashed searing frustrations among many of the rank and file at the FBI. Scores of FBI agents and personnel, many from the Bureau's premier Washington field office, sent anonymous complaints to the after action team detailing how agents were sent into unsafe scenarios without the proper safety equipment or the ability to even identify themselves. Just kind of flood the zone with feds. Readily armed as officers, right? We're undercover. There was no way for us to identify each other. And you know how many agencies there are in DC? I think we looked it up. There were like 13 different police agencies. Like the Mint has a police, like the parks have a police, the coffee shop on the corner has a police department. The most persistent complaint was that the Bureau during the Comey and Chris Wray era had become infected with political biases. You're kidding. The FBI should make clear to its personnel and the public that its mission is its mission. And we'll take a look at the documents and highlight some of these, but one after another. These are all responses that came in, 50 pages in all. They were located by Kash Patel, his team, and recently turned over to the House Judiciary Committee. We've got a new J6 committee that is forming up right now. And here's what they say. The document has proven a bombshell to lawmakers, revealing for the first time the FBI had a total of 274 agents deployed to the Capitol in plain clothes and with guns after the violence started, but with no clear safety gear or way to be recognized. You can read the after action report here. So they're coming flooding in, and that's pretty wild. If there's 274 there in plain clothes and piling in after things start to get a little bit squirrely, how many were there before that? Christopher Wray refused to tell Congress how many agents went to the Capitol that day, which is how we know it's a lot. And prior DOJ Inspector General did not divulge the numbers, and they just get clever about about this, referring only to the SWAT team. And the SWAT team had more than 24 informants in the crowd. Amazing. The SWAT team had 24 informants. The existence of mass FBI agents could also be a problem in cases that were brought in court. The document also reveals for the first time that there were widespread concerns for years inside the Bureau, and sentiments boiled over after they began to send SWAT teams, like they did to Roger Stone, to arrest J6 participants for misdemeanors. These psychos. Misdemeanors! The FBI had become biased in favor of liberals and against conservatives, and Ray said, "We're doing a great job," then got on his airplane and went on family vacation. But frontline agents repeatedly called this liberal bias and saying it reeks of political bias. Jim Jordan vowed through a spokesman to get to the bottom of this, and Chairman Loudermilk said, "We're going to continue to discover exactly what happened on that day." The report solves another one of the mysteries. How did the FBI respond when violence began breaking out? Ray previously divulged to Congress how many agents or informants were present, and he said the initial response of having us again respond to a riot did not seem appropriate, and of course, double standards and lots of different bits of analysis there. But we also see the Blazes reporting on this, and they say the FBI, according to their interpretation of the document, is explaining 274 plainclothed agents. A senior congressional source said the number is not necessarily a surprise. The FBI often embeds counter-surveillance personnel at large events, but given their refusal, the FBI, to disclose the level of its presence, this might raise some skepticism. And we saw this before during the Proud Boys trial. Remember, there are many different agencies that are a part of this entire fake operation that they caused, and they would have the judges bifurcate them out, separate them, and make sure that only, okay, look, if the DOJ and the FBI are investigating and prosecuting the case, says the judge, then we only need those people in the trial. Everybody else is irrelevant. The DOJ is not using Homeland Security investigations to make their case. They just need these FBI agents. And so we'll just segment out all of the other undercover informants who were there, who were instigating and exacerbating what happened. So previous news says the DOJ Office of Inspector General said that the FBI had no undercover personnel in the crowd, a clear lie, saying we found no evidence in the materials, the Office of the Inspector General, suggesting the FBI had any undercover employees. Okay, and that's the other thing. They're like, well, what's the difference between an employee or a confidential human source? And they said, well, we haven't actually officially signed him up as a confidential human source. And so he's just like a pre-confidential human source. It's complicated, like on Facebook or whatever. So no, we didn't have any undercover employees who were dressed in clown suits there. All right. Well, we weren't asking for the clown suit. Oh, well, we had zero. Well, okay. How about any undercover non-employees? Oh, we didn't look into that. Oh yeah, we know why. Now, depending on how Reed's undercover agents versus plainclothes agents, both could be true. They did say that they had 26 CHSs who were in the crowds, 4 of whom entered the Capitol, and the Inspector General also said that only 3 of the FBI informants had been assigned by the Bureau to come to Washington and to report on domestic terror subjects who were attending the event. Now, of the 26 informants, 4 entered the Capitol during the January 6th protests. The OIG said they were not authorized to break the law, but they did. Chairman Loudermilk, who's going to be leading the new J6 committee, has also expressed determination to drill down this, wants to get to the bottom of it. William Pope, big shout out to Free State Will, listed nearly 50 agents that he identified, such as officers from the Joint Terrorism Task Force. Now, it's not clear who exactly is a part of the 274, but speaking of William Pope, Free State Will, he also had something to say about this since he's beaten the DOJ single-handedly. He says the 274 number, he says, is actually 363 total FBI staff on January 6th. FBI only. It does not list them all as being plainclothes, so we don't actually know that. Some responded to the pipe bomb, etc. And also, this number is only FBI from the Washington field office. It doesn't include feds from other agencies or FBI offices. So here's another log where you'll see on 1-6 position type agents, 274 people, but they may have been there, during and after. This number includes agents that responded to the Capitol grounds, as well as inside the Capitol, the pipe bombs, and the red truck that was believed to contain explosive devices, as well as CDCs and ADCs. Okay, so 274 people in and around. When did they get there? How many were there before? That's their number. And then there are other numbers because they've got other people there, on J6, basically the total down here is 363. So what is the total number? And this is just, it sounds like limited to the Washington field office. And we know from other documents that FBI agents from other field offices were working with CHSs or with other sources who were working on going to the January 6th event. So that is from Free State Will. Of course, he's over at Free State Will on X and has done an amazing job defending himself and America. And here they continue. The FBI has repeatedly rebuffed any attempts to come up with the actual number. Most of the video shot by these undercover officers has never been made public, and the FBI also had tactical teams there. They were all over the place. They were everywhere. And that is over from The Blaze. So 2 separate reports on it. Here's what the actual document looks like. And if you try to do like a control F in here and say, where does it say in here 274 anything? It doesn't, right? So that number is not in here. A bunch of materials that are being submitted in here. And in this report, they'll explain, groups of teams. Like there was a team of 12 where we checked with this group over here. And so if you go through and you kind of add it all up, you can start to see the scale of who was there. So like 15X WF operators, you can add that up. 5X operators moving to assist a downed officer. You've got 16 PAX 3 VIX staged in New Jersey. So that's a group of people. You've got, other Bravos holding outside, BA SWAT. How many people are in those? And you can start to add these up. HRT Gold is sending in 2 vehicles with 13 operators. Washington Field Office SWAT element, 14 operators coming in. And so these are, it's a different way to calculate the same number, but it's all not, listed here in total. But there was more because they were very upset about this too. Here's one comment. Somebody sent this comment in after action team. Hey, how'd you guys think January 6th went? Remember, they're like, oh, the cops are unified. They feel like they were victims and all the things, and blaming everybody for the suicides and for Brian Sicknick's death, who died of natural causes that they had to admit, much to their chagrin. They said, the actions of J6 were absolutely despicable and unacceptable. What is even more unacceptable was the hypocrisy displayed by the FBI and its leadership in their attempt to go after those involved in the Capitol riots, while we as agents watched cities burn across America during the summer of 2020. Man, shout out to that FBI dude. He deserves a promotion. He says there were conspiracies to commit crimes, but they were also committed by bad actors during the summer of love. Remember that? Agents stood by on the ground in DC while stores were looted, burned, and ripped of anything of value. Well, that's because they needed that constituency. They needed those people to vote for them. Yeah. And so they wanted to encourage that. Said they won't even catch COVID, remember? There was a Knights of Destruction all over the place. Here's another comment. Ray, we were once an apolitical organization, but I no longer see us as such looking from the ground up. We have been used as pawns in a political war. The FBI fell into the trap and has allowed it to happen. We were supposed to call balls and strikes, regardless of political pressure. Now we can't even be trusted to be on the field. Oh, that's so true. Thank you, sir, for saying that one. And so these complaints came in. Here's another one. As in June, agents were again deployed onto the streets, specifically around the Capitol, and they were simply told to stand there behind MPD. No other direction at all. When asked specifically what they were supposed to do or check in with, they were simply told that management said to go there. Yeah, that's it. Just go stand there, idiots. FBI agents do not have training for it. We don't have equipment. We don't have riot control stuff. They told us to put our gas masks on, whatever. They just keep sending us into harm's way simply as a show of force. Another comment says, the initial response of having us again respond to a riot by just standing the line did not seem appropriate. We didn't have any gear, equipment, or training for riot control because they're the FBI. And so we hope to see much more. We're looking forward to the new January 6th committee that can shed some light on what happened with this scam. And this is one of those things, man, we would like to see some records like now. Pam Bondi, FBI Cash, Dan Bongino, you guys are in charge. Just start dumping records. Let us go through them. We'll find the pipe bomber since you guys can't figure it out, but give us the real video files and things like that. So hopefully they have them. We'll keep our eye on this as the January 6th scam continues to crumble around the Democrats.